controversy has now broken out today again over Steve King of Iowa. Now, I know Representative King a little bit. He asked me to speak at an economic opportunity forum in Congress like a year ago. I'd met him a couple of other times at David Horowitz Freedom Center events. Always seemed like a fairly nice guy. He'd been caught in all sorts of sort of controversies surrounding his comments about race. And I will be honest with you, I thought that Steve King was a dunderhead, right? I mean, I thought that Steve King said dumb things, but they weren't necessarily racist things, but then people would attribute racist motives to the dumb things that he said. So, for example, back in 2017, he had tweeted something out about Geert Wilders, who is a popular right-wing Dutch politician. He had tweeted out, Wilders understands that culture and demographics are our destiny. We can't restore our civilization with somebody else's babies. And I said at the time, there are two ways to read that tweet. The first is obvious, as a racist tweet. The idea is that babies from abroad cannot be civilized to Western values, that we can't actually bring in babies from other civilizations and then civilize them, and then they can't be part of the American bargain. That would be actual racism, and it would be incredibly stupid. So stupid and evil, right? It would be those two things, because America is indeed built on other people's babies, whether those babies are born abroad or born here in the United States. It's built on other people's babies, right? I mean, all of civilization, all of humanity is built on other people's babies as well as your own babies. So that was one way of reading the tweet. The other way of reading the tweet is that King was basically saying that multiculturalism combined with high levels of immigration from non-Western cultures shapes destiny. That basically, if you bring in a bunch of people who are not willing to assimilate and not interested in assimilating, that undercuts Western civilization. So if those babies are not actual babies, they're being brought up in a culture different from that of the United States and being told that that is decent and fine and they don't have to assimilate at all, that undermines your culture. Obviously, that's true, right? I mean, if you were to bring in 1 billion citizens of China right now without any assimilation, it would change America pretty quickly, right? So obviously there's truth to that. And a lot of King's statements were sort of like this, where you could interpret them one of two ways. Well, the problem is that now he's making statements that are not interpretable one of two ways. They are only interpretable as racism. So he made a comment apparently just within the last day or so, where he said this, quote, "White nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization. How did that language become offensive? Why did I sit in classes teaching me about the merits of our history and our civilization?" If you identify white nationalist and white supremacist with Western civilization, that's actually racist. That's doing it wrong. That is the entire problem. Again, if the question of Western civilization is a question of us and them, not based on ideology, but based on race, this does make you a racist. The greatness of Western civilization, the greatness of the Judeo-Christian construct is that it does offer an open door to anybody who wants to join. In America, what makes America fantastic is the fact that that idea is applicable to broad swaths of people from a wide variety of countries, regardless of place of origin. And every single immigrant group that has ever come to the United States has been hit with the hammer of they're not willing to assimilate enough, and then after 20 years, they assimilate. This happened to the Germans, it happened to the Irish, it happened to the Italians, it happened to the Jews. It happened to the Asians, right? It's happened to legitimately everyone who's come to the United States. And America's idea was always capable of integrating people. Well, when Steve King identifies Western civilization with white nationalism, the idea you have to be a certain color in order to be inculcated in Western civilization, that's actual racism.